Welcome. Do you know today is going to be all about the sound? And for that, here's the music. See you guys in a second. Welcome to the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. I'm Vickie Helm. This is a coffee break show. I hear a little bit of echo somehow. I'm wondering if we can squelch that down a little bit, guys. This is the coffee break show. We are on the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. It's brought to you by the Metadime Digital Network. I want to let you know right now, I am fangirling. You are going to meet one of my most favorite Grammy-nominated musical inspirations, and we're going to be talking about sound. He and his wife have an absolutely amazing sound healing thing we're going to talk about today. If you haven't heard of Jonathon Goldman, I'm going to be showing off and telling you about them in just a minute. But first, I want to welcome Andi and Jonathon Goldman to the Coffee Break Show. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. We are delighted to be here.
Vickie, it is our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to say that I see you guys coming on. I just want to pop over and say good morning. I'm so excited that you're here. I see you coming in. Do me a favor, put your name down below. Be part of the conversation. It's already happening. Awesome. Jonathon is awesome. Yes, his music is absolutely going to change. Today, we are going to change your life. You are in my ears daily. That's correct. You are in my ears daily. This is, okay, I want to pop back up here. Good morning. Welcome to the Coffee Break Show. Jonathon Goldman, Andi, so happy to have you here. I want to talk about everything, but first I want to introduce them so that you guys know who Andi and Jonathon are. And so Jonathon is just somebody that I have fangirled with since, I don't know, for decades now. He's got an MA and is an international authority, and he is a pioneer in sound healing. And we're going to be talking about what that is in a minute. They are the author of several books, and they have a new book out right now, a new best-selling and award-winning book called The Humming Effect. Will you pop that book up for me so they can see it? Do you have a copy? Yeah, there we go. That's The Humming Effect. It's written by both of them, Andi and Jonathon. They are probably the most quintessential sound healing couple in the world, in my opinion. But now I just want to say this. I want to speak about the truth. And I want to tell you, I haven't told him. I told him I'm a fangirl. He knows that. But I haven't told him I listen to him every day. I actually have a Pandora station that is Jonathon Goldman Radio. I listen to it every day. And you guys know that I've written, 38 books right now. Every single book that I've ever written, I have Jonathon in my ears as I write, from start to finish. And we're going to talk about why. Hey, all the way, good morning. It must be 3:30 in the morning in Australia. Hello, Vickie, Andi, and Jonathon. Thank you for being here. This is going to be the sound healing day, Larissa. It is going to be a rocking day. I want to let you know that the power of sound healing is it opens up my creativity. It gives me the gateway to my own inner genius. I want to be able to tell you, if you're interested in learning about this, today is going to be your day. Jonathon, Andi, I want to start from the beginning. Let's just start with the basics. What exactly is sound healing? Let's start with that. What exactly is that process?
Vickie, where do we begin?
Yeah, where do we begin?
Okay, we'll start at the very beginning. A very good place to start when you read to begin baby people. When you sing, you begin with home. Okay.
That's the elevated Julie Andrews version.
Right, and we love Julie Andrews. Listen, sound healing is basically just obviously the use of sound to affect your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. And we like to think of it, if it's healing, it's going to be a positive aspect of that effect, because of course you can use anything to help create imbalances. We don't want to do that. So our purpose. Now, there are two different ways that sound can heal us. One is to go into our ears, into our brain, affecting our nervous system, our heart rate, our respiration, our brain waves. And this is called psycho-acoustics. Sound going into our ear and affecting us, and everything from music to something like this, a tuning fork, to the sound of our voice. These all affect our heart rate, respiration, brain waves. And the other one is called vibro acoustics.
And vibro acoustic goes right directly into our body. And when we do something such as humming, it's like giving ourselves an internal massage. And on a cellular level, that sound is affecting us because we are frequency. We are vibration.
Yes. And that's a key component. We are frequency. We are vibration. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to show you an example of if psychoacoustics is using the tuning fork for the ear, then vibroacoustics would be using the tuning fork on the body. So the sound goes into the body, affecting you on a cellular level. Just want to do a visual demonstration since we got you.
This is so interesting. It's so interesting what you're saying, because we see each other as meat suits. We don't see each other as the vibro pieces of ourselves that we are. So when you tap into the sound of you, what does that help you do?
Wow. When we tap into our own sound, Vickie, we can go into an internal place of inner peace. We can, if we're stressed out and, things are really crazy around us, as they have been this past year, I will say, when we use our own voice as an example, whether it's humming, whether it's toning, whether it's, sounding the chakras, what's happening is that is bringing a balance into our frequency, into our vibrational bodies.
And I guess I'd like to add, I love working together with Andi, because she'll say something and then I'll add something else. But, the idea, okay, first of all, you're saying we're meat suits. Yes. And what is meat composed of mostly? Water. And how does sound affect water? You've probably seen the experiments of either Dr. Hans Jenny or John Stuart Reed, or any of a multitudinous number of scientists who have shown us how we can look at a basically plate of water and how it's exposed to different frequencies, and how these frequencies make the water take on different shapes. And if we can change water like that, as a dear friend of mine says, we're just big bodies of water, and how easy it is to shift and change the shape of water with sound.
That's amazing. This is so empowering for me when I talk about this, because we have been talking about this week. We have made the subject focus because I have adult ADHD, and I've had since, they called it hyperactivity when I was a kid. But I was telling them those things that I put in place that help me focus, that help me concentrate, that give me my center when I'm, producing or being productive in a project or a piece of content I'm working. That is how I actually got to the point where I started listening to Jonathon. And, I'm listening to Jonathon Goldman too right now. I know that a lot of healers in their healing room put that music on just because it adds to the healing thing. And when I write, when I want to focus, when I want to calm down, when I want to be grounded, sound is some of the best way I know for me to help me come back into my body, to help me concentrate, and to help me focus in that way. I want to talk about, I'm going to go off to the left here because I now have the sound healing team here, and I can ask the questions I've always wondered. And so what I'm wondering right now is there an individuated sound for each human existence? And is there a sound for all of human existence. Do you understand? Like, is there a megahertz or a resonance of individuated thing?
A brilliant question. And if I can take a minute or two to answer this, simply because we are living now in seemingly the search for the perfect frequency. And I'd like to suggest that in one of my earlier books called The 7 Secrets of Sound Healing, I have a couple of chapters dedicated to that. So on a level, no, I don't think personally, from all my experience, from all our experience of really many combined years of being in this field and being in the field of healing, that there is one frequency, so to speak, one size fits all. And in fact, one of the things that we really want to talk about is the fact that we are all unique vibratory beings. And Vickie, I'll ask you and those who are listening and those who will be listening, is anybody there allergic to penicillin? Because we would always ask this when we taught our healing sounds intensive. One of the first questions we ask, because, and I'm going to now step back for a moment and say that the basic premise of using sound for healing is simply this. Our ancient mystics and our modern physicists are in agreement. Everything is in a state of vibration, from the electrons moving around the nucleus of an atom, the atoms to stars and distant galaxies moving around the sun. They're all in motion. And if they're in motion, they're conceptually creating a vibration. And this includes our body. Every organ, every bone, every tissue, every part of our body is in a state of vibration. When we are in a state of health, we say we're in sound health. We're like this overall orchestra creating the symphony of the self. But what happens if the second violin player loses their sheet music?
That's a good question. I'm not actually sure what happens when the violinist loses their sheet music.
About to tell you. The entire orchestra sounds off, and this is akin to of our body vibrating out of its normal, healthy, resonant frequency. And we say it's vibrating out of ease, out of harmony. We say it is dis-ease.
Yes.
So the basic concept of using sound for healing is simply to project the correct resonant frequency or frequencies back into that portion of the body. And this is all very wonderful. But we'd like to, and there are ways that we can assist us and do this. We are, if you like, great proponents of using music, tuning forks, all sorts of different implements, but we think that the greatest frequency enhancer and way of encoding sound is with our own voice. But I'm going to step back. I'm going to go over and just say, we were saying that we all have unique vibratory frequencies. How many of you are allergic to penicillin? And if penicillin has a frequency or a series of frequencies, let's say it's composite frequency, whenever I ask that, between 5 and 20% of an audience will raise their hand. I'll say, okay, so if penicillin is a frequency of frequencies, then 80% or more find it a healing frequency, but 5 to 20% will find it toxic. And I think this is an incredible metaphor. Let me just say one last thing. The idea of putting things back into their healthy resonant frequency. This is not only the idea of sound healing, but it's also the idea of light healing, chromotherapy, aromatherapy, even chiropractic and acupuncture can ultimately trace back to this phenomenon. So it's overall a gestalt.
And we are, once again, all frequency and vibration. And so all of the other modalities that Jonathan just mentioned, sound included in that, really shifts our frequency. And the other thing, when Vickie, you asked about, is there, one sound, what happens to us as human beings on a daily basis? We are constantly changing. We are constantly internally, our cells are regenerating. Everything is changing all the time. So therefore, sound is many different sounds are going to affect us in many different ways on many different days. So we really do hold that premise of we are all unique vibratory beings.
Yes, yes.
But I want to bring into account the importance of intentionality, because this so figures in to everything that is going on. And I think we'd like to share it with you. Does that seem like a reasonable thing? The importance of it. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So in fact, I'll pop in here because many, many years ago, I've known Jonathan and we've worked together for 25 years, but this was way even before that. And he created a formula that really speaks to the issue of intention. And it was back in the 80s when people were not talking so much about intention. It wasn't part of our, healing lexicon. But he created a formula which is frequency plus intent equals healing. Frequency plus intent equal healing. And Vickie, we just feel that formula today is as potent and powerful and important as it was back in the 80s. You should tell them how you discovered that.
All right, you got time for a little story?
Yeah, do it. I'm so excited. Keep going.
Okay, let's step into the Wayback Machine. We're going to travel back. We're going to travel back to the actually early 1980s, and I'm at Lesley University getting a master's degree researching the uses of sound and music for healing. And I've got a pile of papers about Yo-Hi, and each of them has a different, shall we say, diagram or chart indicating the use of sound for healing that I'd gotten from a spiritual master, medical doctor, scientist, or whatnot. And I come from a family of doctors, father, grandfather, and brother, all medical doctors. So I really have a great respect for the medical community. I thought I was going to be able to, okay, here I am. I gathered all this information. I'm going to be able to put it together and create the first straight correlation between sound, parts of the body, etc. But Vickie, what happened was, and you have to imagine that this is so far back, we're using a DOS operating system. The screen is basically very, very dark with an amber letters, and this had an amber cursor flashing back and forth. Way to the right.
We remember.
Yes, I do. Keep going. You're doing. Yeah, I want to be.
Okay. And I'm gathering all these papers together, but unfortunately, what I'm seeing is that spiritual master A is using one particular mantra for a particular chakra, and spiritual master B is using a completely different mantra for the same chakra, or perhaps the same mantra for a different chakra. Dr. X is using a particular set of frequencies for one organ. Dr. Y is using a completely different set of frequencies for that same organ. I'm sitting there thinking, how can this be? How can this be? I was in a state of intellectual angst. I didn't get it.
Because you're wondering how. Keep going.
So I'm a little bit, shall I say, distraught, and I'm going, wow, this is too crazy. This is too crazy. And I hear this inner voice that sometimes comes on.
Mm-hmm.
And the inner voice said, it is not only the frequency of the sound that creates its effect, it is also the intention of the person making and receiving the sound. And I wrote down these words: frequency plus intent equals healing. And there it is, amber gold against the screen, frequency plus intent. And at the time, and it was like this light bulb broke over my head. And I was going, wow, the importance of intentionality. In the mid-'80s, you know how difficult it was to talk to scientists and medical
people about this? You would have sounded so woo-woo and out in left field. Yeah.
They're looking at me like I'm a man from another planet, which I am. But that's But nowadays, you get people like a fellow named Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about the placebo effect, or Dr. Bruce Lipton, great friend.
Or Wayne Dyer.
I love Wayne.
So, I mean, all this talking about the power of intentionality. So it's wonderful, but it's also really, really important, because getting back to the idea of sound, there's some people who are really focused on one particular frequency being the overall gestalt or healing frequency that we can use.
Wow.
And if you have that belief, then blessed be, and it's going to have an effect. And I'm not going to try to go, no, that's not right. But I'd just like to really encourage our understanding that we are all unique vibratory beings, and there may be frequencies that work specifically for you and don't work for you. Have you ever gone to somebody and had a therapy that you thought was wonderful, and you refer somebody else to it? Oh, that didn't work. I hated it.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. It's all, it's interesting because even in its basic premise, while you were sharing these stories, I thought to myself, let's just and I see you guys, I'll get to you in a minute. I promise he'll see all your comments. Give me a minute. It's that in that moment where maybe your heart is broken. Don't you put on those records this was our song and and you play all that stuff because it matches your pain and it lets you cry it out. And then those days where you're so mad, you're just mad, or something went wrong. And all of a sudden you're driving and your favorite song comes on your radio. And immediately the second that it comes on, you're like, I love this is my jam. And you turn the radio up. These are basic things that shift just there. And it's interesting, the thing that you talk about intention, and Wayne Dyer, change the way you look at things and the things you look at will change. The sound current in Eastern philosophy, in any philosophy, that sound current is how the universe was built by that sound, that inner sound. We always vibrated that inner sound. To me, ideas come in. Where do they come in from? And if you're quiet enough, you can hear that it's a sound that comes in first. And then the idea comes up, whether it comes down from here. Mine always come in, this way and up. Those places where sound is, I think the reason we can't hear them is our mind is chattering. And speaking of chatter, I just want to go over here and pop over here and say, okay, Larissa, thank you. It must be 3:30 in the morning or something like that where she is. She got up to listen to you. This Sunday, I have a sound retreat as Escara for Equinox with local couple musician. That's good. This is really important because he said this, and I really like this. We are all unique vibratory beings, and that is incredible, just incredible. I just bought my copy of The Humming Effect, which is, there's a link right there if you guys want the copy of The Humming Effect. Hey, Glinda, nice to see you on today. My friend's son was severely injured in a skiing accident. He began to walk and talk after crawling therapy, listening to Bach and certain sounds, also color therapy, etc. You see that it's weird. We see sound as a therapy, and I see it as a form of consciousness. One of the most basic elements of consciousness itself is sound. And I love that it's such a healer as well. I love what it does for your body, mind. Frequency plus intent equal healing. And this to me is also why frequency and intent can equal your result as well. You guys are going too fast. I can't keep up. Wow, that was an amazing creation we are. Yes, what an amazing creation we are. Thank you. Sean, not first, but still here. Thank you. Jonathan Goldman's here today, and I am fangirling big time. I'm trying to be all cool and professional, but inside I'm like, yay. So I want to talk about this. So glad you're here, Sean. This is awesome. Glad you made it. So I want to talk about, what do they call it? The Mozart Effect and sound healing like that, because that's just like, isn't it basic? It's so basic, so powerful. And what we tend to do is blow off sound as something that here's our favorite band, instead of allowing it to help us feel better, evolve, access our inner genius, and be conscious in that way. And that Mozart effect, how does that, or maybe what's the inner workings of that there is an effect in the first place? Do you understand my question?
Absolutely.
Good.
And we're chuckling here, Vickie, and because the Mozart Effect, which we totally love, by the way, was written by our dear, beloved friend, family, lifelong friend, Don Campbell.
Who introduced us?
And he was a friend of mine, separate from Jonathan for 20, 30 years. And then he, and Jonathan were colleagues, and he actually introduced us, and that is how we met. So we are big proponents of the Mozart effect.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about that. And if you don't know what the Mozart effect is, you're about to learn. And I'm going to pop off and let you guys have that conversation with us so that they even know what that means.
Well, the Mozart effect, Vickie, is actually based upon a study that was done many, many years ago that Don Campbell found out about and used ultimately as a metaphor. Because for a while, people just, if you like, grokked into it as meaning that listening to Mozart will boost your IQs. And there is some reality to that, but the real thing is that just as Mozart is simply a metaphor for different types of music that will stimulate your brain and at the same time help chill and relax you, just as what, we talk about frequency, but people not needing to lock into any specific frequency, because all sorts of different types, not only classical music, but other types of music, including music for relaxation, will help enhance not only learning, but help enhance and shift and change your consciousness, because you have to realize that different types of music will shift and change your consciousness, and also different types of music based upon who you are and what you need at a particular time will shift and change your consciousness.
Well, and I think that, just in honor of Don, who has passed on, he did a beautiful service to bring music on this level into our consciousness, that listening to, Mozart was his thing, really can shift and change us. And so that opened the door. And of course, he and Jonathon were colleagues at that time and had been for I don't know how many umpteen years.
He was one of my first artists on my music label, believe it or not.
Yeah. But, it opened the door. And so now, people are really beginning. Of course, that door was open, back in the 90s. And of course, we're now in, 2021. And what we have found is that sound is becoming so ubiquitous. It's like everywhere. And we are so grateful for that because of the effect that it does have on each of us. And like you were saying, Vickie, you can be in just the worst mood ever and you're driving in your car and wow, there's your favorite song. And all of a sudden you shift and change. That was a beautiful.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking about driving in your car, I like to tell the story because I think it's so important to illustrate how one type of music is not healing all the time. And I believe that any music, depending upon the time, the space, and the need of the individual. And you were talking about this before, when you feel perhaps sad and down, all of a sudden a particular piece of music comes on that's in your musical vocabulary and it uplifts you. So here's the story. I am teaching down in Boulder at an actual school of sound that we had that Don was actually teaching in. And it was beginning to snow a little bit in Boulder as I left. And I'm going up, I lived at the time at the top of the mountain, and the road that I was traveling on was apparently one of the 10 most dangerous well-traveled roads in the United States. Really curvy, and if you went over the edge, there was like 1,000-foot plummet. So you didn't want to do that. And here it is snowing, and it's really, I'm getting to be a little white out. Okay. Now, if I was initially listening to one of my music, chilled out, going to be driving up, all of a sudden, no. I really needed to have the adrenaline pumping. I needed to be really aware. I put on Jumping Jack Flash and the Rolling Stones and cranked it up because I wanted my heartbeat, my respiration, my adrenaline. I wanted to be like this, and I wanted to really be aware of what was going on. I didn't want to be chilled and literally miss the road because I was so relaxed or whatnot. So depending upon the time and the space of the individual, here's something that a lot of people don't know, but it's very simple, and it's demonstrated by the Mozart effect and so many other things, is that music sound goes into our ear. It affects us. It affects our heart rate and respiration, and our body, literally, our heart rate will also entrain to the rhythms of the music. So fast-paced music will speed you up. Slow-paced music will slow you down. And depending upon what you need. If I am going on a treadmill, I don't want to be listening to my music. I made the mistake of doing that once, and I fell off the treadmill because it was going much faster, and my muscles wanted to slow down. All of a sudden, I was off there. So once again, that's why you listen to up-tempo music when you're doing aerobics. That simple and that profound.
You know, this is so amazing what you're saying, because you know how herbalists learn the healing of all plants. They learn this plant does this plant does this. That's how I see sound. Sound does this, and sound does this, and this type of sound does this. And one of the things that you just mentioned earlier was the talking about the eclectic sounds. Like, I like everything. I haven't met a type of music or a type of sound that doesn't fascinate me. When you get to the point where you listen to stuff that doesn't resonate well with you, where you're like, yeah, I don't like this. I don't like how I feel like this. And those that make you feel elevated and excited, etc. One of those things that I have a question about is what happens to your body when you hear a sound like, to me, one of the sounds that really is irritating, hands across a chalkboard. I mean, you know, that sound. And sometimes music can make me feel that kind of, you know, ooh, I don't like this, and I want to turn the channel, or I want to listen to a different song, or I want to do that. What happens to the body when we listen to sound that doesn't feel good? I mean, is it always that we should listen to what feels good to us, and what, you know, or what doesn't feel good to us can feel good or be helpful? How does that happen, that sound can be pleasurable and not quite so pleasurable to the ear?
Well, Vickie, I'd like to go back to what you were saying. There's certain sounds that work with us and certain sounds that don't. And from my perspective, from our perspective, we want to encourage people to take power. And just because somebody says, this is a good healing sound for you, if it makes you feel sick, don't listen to it. If you give somebody a remedy and they have an adverse reaction, you're not going to continue it. But, you know, I'd like to really suggest, check yourself out. You are your own best laboratory. And
yes,
how is happening to you is really what counts. I could give you medical scientific jargon for what's happening to your nervous system, your brainwave, your musculature, etc. But you can obviously sense it. Not good stuff is happening if we're having an adverse reaction.
Yes.
Happening, you know, we can give you technical stuff, but that's not the point. The point is really to trust what's happening to you.
Now, I'm talking about, I want to make a point, because what Jonathan just said is absolutely right on. However, what happens if we are near a sound that we're not able to turn off? You know, like, you know, the lawnmower next door, the leaf blower, oh my gosh, what do you do, you know, when that happens? And so I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because we have a dear colleague, Dr. John Beaulieu, who says, let's just become friends with that sound. And I'm going, well, how can you become friends with that sound? And I'd like to introduce the concept that we wrote a book about called humming. And when you have got a sound like that, if you begin to start humming, that can, you know, internally help. I mean, it may not totally offset that a sound that you don't particularly resonate with, but it can really begin to help your body, because when we start to hum and we begin to feel that internal massage, so many physiological things are happening in our body. Our heart rate is lowered, our brain waves slow down, and different hormones are released, melatonin, oxytocin, nitric oxide. And yes, Jonathan likes to talk about nitric oxide.
Right. Well, I want to first thank Andi for bringing us back to, if you like, the road of sharing awareness of sound. And just going to reiterate, one of them is listening to music, okay? And we basically want to listen to music to get the psycho-acoustic effect. Basically, different rhythms and different types of music will affect your heart rate, respiration, brain waves, own and understand how different music affects you by listening and using yourself as a laboratory. It's number one. But number two is, among other things, vibro-acoustics and working with your own voice. And the reason that we want to focus on humming is that it's a relatively, everybody hums, but it's a relatively new phenomenon in terms of talking about its therapeutic effects. And we'd like to tell you a little bit about how and why we got into the realm.
I would love to hear about that as well. I would love to hear this.
Well, of course, Jonathon has been in this field for over 40 years, Vickie. And of course, as I just mentioned, 25 years. And so we've worked with so many different sounds and had so many different experiences with, different, tonings and omings and so many different aspects of sound. And we were talking one day and we thought that, all of those sounds are, yes, very healing, important. We've been teaching them for years and years and years, but we would like to be able to get out the information about the power of sound to more and more people out there in the world who may not quite grok what is this thing sound? How does this thing sound help? And so we thought, let's go back to the basics. And we kind of looked at each other and, we're talking about, well, what should we write? What's our book going to be about? And we kind of looked at each other and went,
So, the thing is that blessed be all the different shows, American Idol and whatnot, and, Who's Got Talent, whatever. They've really introduced a whole another vocabulary to us, including words like pitchy and whatnot. So we're really, really critical of the voice, and we're really, really critical about singing in tune or out of tune. And we want to find a sound that nobody was judgmental about. And we looked at each other and said, okay, what's the sound? And we went,
That is so fascinating.
And Vickie, we have never heard anyone say, gosh, I'm a terrible hummer. People will not judge themselves with humming. It's just one of those sounds that we all make from the time we're little babies until, we're, elderly. We're all humming all the time. And so we thought that is going to solve that problem of, I can't sing, I can't tone, I'm not a good singer. So humming became, and now we call it conscious humming. Our book, The Humming Effect, really revolves around conscious humming. So we, teach it very consciously.
And just as a thing, so we decided to write this book on humming, and we began to investigate things. We said, what can we do to make people take humming seriously? We looked at, okay, the first chapter is going to be nothing more or less than what they call peer review, or scientific and medical data indicating the therapeutic effects of humming. And Andi, get the book, because I can't remember what it is now. No, nothing.
Oh,
we're going to read you just a few different things.
Oh.
Okay. So you get increased oxygen in your cells. Take it.
And you get, your blood pressure is lowered. And, Vickie, also, I had just mentioned just a minute ago, melatonin is released. And this can be really helpful, at night if you're not able to sleep. If I wake up in the night and can't get back to sleep, I will just start humming, and knowing that melatonin is being released through that self-created sound.
That is fascinating. If you have anxiety and you can't sleep, you can hum. It's beautiful.
We're not done. We got more.
Wow, keep going.
Okay, so you get the release of endorphins, those basically neurochemicals that make you feel good. You get the reduction of stress-related hormones, such as cortisol. You get the release of oxytocin, right?
Yeah, and oxytocin is the trust hormone. And one of the things that we have found over and over is that when we're sounding either by ourselves or together, there is a sense of trust that, you feel at one with. If you're by yourself, you feel more at one with yourself. If you're with other people, there is that feeling of community and trusting. And because oxytocin is actually emitted when we are sounding, and of course when we're humming.
And you get the release of
Nitric oxide, and this is huge right now.
huge.
This is Jonathan, take it
Okay,
away.
so nitric
I'll
oxide,
take our book away.
which is not nitrous oxide, which is used in the dentist's office, that's NO2. Nitric oxide is NO2. It was basically given the award for the molecule of the year some years ago. I like to think this little molecule picks up the prize and goes, thank you very much. But it's an amazing vasodilator, which means it allows your circulatory system and the blood and lymphatic stuff to, and more oxygen in your blood. It's really, really a therapeutic thing for heart and brain, etc. And also, nitric oxide has been found to have antiviral abilities. So that, for example, if you hum and you nasalize your hum, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, but if you you're getting the release of nitric oxide in your nasal cavity. It's great for those who suffer from sinusitis. And in fact, there's on our website, healingsounds.com, there's a wonderful series of blogs on sound and the immunological system. And the first thing deals with using sound for basically working with different, shall we say, as an antiviral agent. There was we have a little clip from this medical doctor who recommends that you do that. So this is scientifically validated. And how cool if you feel like something is trying to encode itself, you simply begin to hum and you have a therapeutic effect.
That's amazing. I'm sitting here in my mind noticing how unconsciously we hum. It's like you just did it. You're like, We do that so often. And, I could catch myself humming in my head in a loop to a song where I'm not doing the whole song. I get stuck in this one part of the song and I'm humming it to myself, this all over the day and how it makes me feel. And we do this unconsciously. And imagine if we had intention behind this right here, which is conscious humming for the well-being of our body. It's so simple, so easy that we can do this naturally. We do it without thinking about it. What are 3 things we can do to bring conscious awareness to our humming?
Love it. And Annie's going to read you a little quote.
I would love to share this with our audience, Vickie. It's a quote by Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote The Biology of Belief. And on the back of our book, the quote says, I highly recommend the humming effect for all those impacted by the stress of the modern world. It is a powerful, non-pharmaceutical prescription for self-healing that has only positive side effects. Wow. And we were so grateful to Bruce for writing such a profound quote, because it is a non-pharmaceutical with powerful positive effects.
I think that's so important to understand, because we think sometimes that we're helpless to help ourselves. And maybe what we don't know how is, what are the simple things that can help ourselves that are so powerful that are right in front of us? And sound is definitely one of them.
Well, as a psychotherapist, one of the things that I do is empower my clients. And what better way to empower ourselves than to know that with our own voice, we can make these shifts and changes in our emotional body.
So, as I think one of the comments had noted, humming very naturally is a self-soothing thing. We hum all the time, and you really. Another friend of mine who's pretty well known said, you can't hum when you're angry. And you can't. But here's one other. I want to play this game for you before you and anybody who's watching, before we begin talking a little bit more about conscious humming. We basically, like you, and when you hum, you have to have your lips closed. That's the only, shall we say, Okay, if you have your lips open, it's not a hum. If I close my lips, it is. Okay, now I want you to hum with me and then pinch your nose. You ready?
Yeah. Wow.
You can't hum.
You can't
if
hum
your
without.
nose is pinched. So we say unto you, if you didn't know that, do you think maybe there's some other aspects about humming that you don't know? Okay, do you know, remember perhaps many years ago when conscious breathing came out, which people...
I remember that.
And it's like, who's going to take... Well, of course, in the Hindu tradition, it's known as pranayama, okay? The science of breath. Well, we are introducing conscious humming, which incorporates pranayama, and more so. And if you like, there are 3 attributes that... Well, Andi, why don't you take it away here? What would you recommend for... conscious humming, things that people do.
Well, people with conscious humming can begin to take a nice deep breath. You know, that conscious breathing goes hand in hand with conscious humming. And if people take a nice deep breath, close their eyes, and then begin to hum. Begin to just focus on your humming. That conscious breath will relax the body, and then we begin to hum.
And just hitting one tone, not moving all around, but one tone and holding it.
It's a very, very simple process. And if you can even hum for 1 minute, you're going to get shifts and changes. We like to recommend, we have a practice where we will hum for 5 minutes every morning, and that is really powerful. But humming, even, you can do it anytime, anywhere. And when you are stressed and feeling overwhelmed, if you can just say, hey, I'm going to step back, I'm going to just hum. Take those nice deep breaths and begin humming.
2 quick things. Number 1, have your back straight. If possible, you can do it in bed, but if you're sitting up straight, have your back straight. And if possible, close your eyes to really experience and encode the effect of the humming, simply because if you were to try this, all right, we're going to do this now. We're going to just do 3 hums, but I'm almost going to guarantee that if you do 3 hums with us, you will feel some sort of effect. And I'm going to tell you basically that if you do a few more, you'll get a reduction of heart rate, respiration, blood pressure on an almost pharmaceutical level. It's that powerful. But let's try it now.
Taking a nice deep belly breath. And what that does, it relaxes our body. So then our body supports the sound. So taking a nice deep breath.
And sounding forth with the first of 3 hums. You ready? Breathing in. Another deep breath. And 1 more. Just being in silence for a minute and checking yourself out. Because it is really in silence that the power of sound has its greatest effect. Sound is the yang to the yin of silence. Silence is the yin to the yang of sound. And now let's just open our eyes, because we could do this all day and you'd go, wow, that felt really good. The only thing we recommend, and
let's see how Vickie, what was that like for you? And for our listeners that are out there, just how did that feel and what happened for you?
You know, it's interesting because I dropped off so I could hum really loud when I did the 3 hums. But it was like gathering myself and coming back to myself in my center right there. And I could feel peace, this intense peace happen. And I just grounded down. I could feel more focused as I took my energy from being here and brought it back into here. It was really relaxing. So you guys, I see this. I want to share their experience. Wow, it felt so relaxing. It does. I feel very grounded. And it was, Sean says, it was a very calming and centering experience. It was. I came really back home just from that. And what I like about that is it was as though I found my own sound, my when it came out. That was really a neat experience.
Thank you for sharing that, Vickie. And you know, the thing that we love is that it is so simple, and yet it is very effective. And so thank you for letting us share that
And like to suggest,
with you.
like to suggest that if you do like 5 minutes worth of this, that you be in a state of silence and just rest for 5 minutes, because believe it or not, it can be that powerful. You not only get blissed out, but also you may get a little, shall we say, stoned out. And, you know, which is great, but at the same time, you don't want to have to run and catch a bus or whatnot. If you like that.
Or drive in your car.
So we recommend an additional 5 minutes of just sitting there with your eyes closed and meditating and breathing, and then if you can, logging and noting and journaling what goes on. And we have a humming practice where we hum for 5 minutes a day. And it's spectacular. And then if you add the next level is to add intentionality.
Yes.
If something is bothering you, if something is bothering you, headache, stomachache, or whatnot, close your eyes and then make the sound and project it to that part of your body, just so you can see. And I've been doing this for a while, but you can, first of all, play with pitch a little bit. You can see it. You can see it. But here I'm going to basically go from my head to my chest, simply with intention. You can watch this, and I'm doing it. And if I can't do it, you'll know. Just did it. Didn't change a thing, but and probably there are micro tonal shifts and changes in my musculature that may have also assisted, but the sound went from here to here with me. And, I'm fairly adept at humming, but everyone can learn to do this. And in our book, The Humming Effect, we go so much deeper. Did you know that the Om most probably came from the hum? Okay,
Interesting. That makes sense.
Okay, indeed, there's in the Yoga Sutras, it said that pranava, was basically the humming of prana. It's firstly the first vibration, the humming of prana. They had to give it a name, so they called it Om.
That makes sense. I want to pop here just a couple of seconds. I want to bring this back up. I didn't realize I was outside until I came back in. Isn't that amazing that a simple hum can take us from outside to inside our own being? And this, I like the hyperoxygenation. And they talk about that with certain types of breathing where you're supposed to breathe in and then hold it. And when I was humming, I was like, it's the same as letting the breath out slowly. It's that the hyperoxygenation. Thank you for pointing that out. That was really, and I see all you guys. I have them here and I want to get more from them. So I'm going to just keep going. Something really cool is that it can be done quickly throughout the day. Hey, Sean, should add that to the water thing. I like that too. Brilliant observation. Thank you. It was. Now I need to combine the Christmas effect with the humming effect. Looking forward to humming consciously. Me too. Thank you. This is such an important thing. So, Andi, what I want to say is, you know how some people just get triggered and you're in the middle of your defenses, or you're in the middle of whatever meltdown you want to have right now. When we hum, can we like bring ourselves back? When we have a trauma experience, or not a trauma experience, that's not what I want to say. When we are out of sorts in a defense or a knee-jerk reaction, can humming bring us back to our center when we're out of sorts as a almost therapeutic technique?
Absolutely, Vickie. It can do that, which I think just happened for you just now. But one of the important things is when you start really investigating and learning about humming and realize the power that it can actually do internally for you. You know, if you can sort of ahead of time kind of give yourself the message, okay, if I get really out of sorts, what I'm going to try to remember, it's going to be hard in that moment because I'm going to be out of sorts, but I'm going to try to remember, okay, just hum. All right, I'm really upset, just hum. And if you give yourself that message way before the time actually occurs, that can be a little bit of a tool to help you remember to hum, because indeed it can bring us back to our center. And, you know, once you start feeling that and practicing that, you're going to get it more and more the more you do it. But the answer to your question, absolutely 100%. And I've had that experience myself. Jonathan has had that experience. And one of the things that we do, because, I mean, obviously, you know, we work together and we have those moments where, you know, we do feel out of sorts. One of us will say, hey, honey, just hum with me. Right? Just hum with me. No, I don't feel like, oh, come on, we got to do this. Remember, that's the whole thing we teach. And we will hum. And Vickie, honestly, we then, in a very short period of time,
like that,
we start kind of chuckling and going, what were we even upset about?
And it's not all intentionality or imagination. It's actually a physiological response. This is a simple sound, but it may be the most profound. And one last thing I want to say, just with regard to humming. Yes, do it throughout the day, and you can do it standing and walking and driving in a car, but for the most profound and powerful, we really suggest, you know, sitting straight and just actually devoting yourself to doing it so that the humming doesn't take a second step to whatever else is going on. For it to be conscious, let it be the primary thing that you're doing at that particular moment in time and space.
I want to say this is so important, Andi and Jonathan, because, you know, life happens. And in that day, if you can hum, then you can change your state immediately. May I ask you one question, Jonathan? Is there a silent hum, or does the hum have to be made with your vocal cords? Can you, like, let's say you're at the office and it happens and you need to hum, but you can't just without the entire office looking at you. Is there an inner hum that we can just close our eyes and do the hum and it have an effect as well?
Yes, certainly, of course. You know, there's a name for that, and you know, in the sound current, it's called anahata, or the silent sound or unstruck sound. But I'd like to introduce our friend Vibro Acoustics again. If you can add any sort of vibro-acoustic element, i.e., just even a little, and most people are not going to be able to pick that up. And louder is not better with humming. You don't have to go. You don't have to do that. I'm vibrating myself, and I don't know if you could hear that or not. I don't know if it was even coming out because it was very soft, but I could feel it and I could project it. So it's not the amount or the amplification of the sound or even the frequency. It's the sound, cut, frequency, and intent. So if you want to do it silent, yeah, I would suggest that adding a little bit of sound will amplify the effect.
Yeah, this is, thank you guys. Listen, somebody, again, put the link up, show it down in the bottom of the thread. Just grab the book. Can't wait to read it. Thank you, because, you know, this is some of the most powerful things. I am so honored. We're at the top of the hour. We're going a little bit over. What if they want to come see you, work with you? How can they be involved with you? Do you have a Facebook page? Do you have something where they can go ahead and be connected with you outside of everybody? Get the book. Go buy the book now. It's going to be in there. Simple, powerful, empowering yourself to take command of your own state, your own beingness. How can they be involved with you?
Healing Sounds with an S at the end. HealingSounds.com is the website. Facebook/Healing Sounds is the Facebook page. And we'd like to suggest that our website has it's an award-winning website. And it's got all sorts of great free downloads, information, all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's literally, we are dedicated to helping bring awareness of sound and music for healing. There's all sorts of great music, great books, great sonic tools, healingsounds.com.
So I want to let you know, everybody who's out there, and I know that you may be watching this afterwards. So I want to tell you that Jonathon is probably the singular most important part of my focus and attention when I write a book. And you guys know that I have several bestsellers out. When I listen to his music, the reason I listen to his music is because it takes me inward, where I can tap into my own creativity or my own inner genius. And if I'm feeling like I have this lie where I tell myself that I have writer's block, I don't listen to that anymore. If there's writer's block, I put Jonathon on my head and bam, writer's block dissolves. That's how fast it goes. But I also know that this guy does sound healing, and he has several CDs out. And just before you go, I have to share with them my favorite one. I asked you if you could bring that favorite, and it's CD. Now you can get it probably online as an EP somewhere. Just, everything's there. But I want them to see the thing that I use that's helped me create several bestsellers. Now, when you use sound or frequency, it raises your consciousness. Say the name of that. You could bring the thing.
Well, this is frequency. This is frequencies 2. We also have a frequencies 1, and
I love both of them.
I have to admit that they're very popular, and I'm grateful because the stories of really healing, for want of a better term, shifting consciousness, it's what we work for. So I'm just gratified that this sound has been able to, shall we say, assist so many people, including myself.
So many. What you have done in the world is simply amazing, because when the world happens, some things have to be caught, not taught. Once you know how to hum when you're defensive, you have to catch yourself in the defense mode and choose to say, I don't want to be in defense. I want to be centered and hum. And your music, when we play it, doesn't allow for, it's like this barrier of protection that says negativity and toxic thoughts don't pulse at this level. They're not here. And when we work or we create productivity, we have to manage that piece of ourselves. So we're accessing our own ability to create. You guys, I see you there so much. Here's the link to the CD. It's a long link, but the CD is actually in there. You guys can get all of these things. Help yourself. Jonathon and Andi, I feel so blessed. I'm so excited. I got to talk. It's on Spotify. I got to tell you, I have Jonathon Goldman Radio. I mean, it's in my playlist of things that we have. I'm so fangirly right now. I wish I would hey, they're here. Thank you for sharing such incredible wisdom so kindly. And you guys, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing today. Thank you for your gift that has really, really helped every healer in the world, every healer in their healing room as they're dealing with clients, and helping people center is just such an incredible gift to be and use sound healing. Yay. And it's on Pandora. I see you guys all going there. I want to say thank you. And just remember that along with anything else that you have in your day, nobody gets out of here without listening to the sound. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks.